and global leaders. My name is Simon Olomu, and I'm your host for the Hult Prize Podcast. Here on Hult Prize Podcast, we spotlight innovation, entrepreneurship, and leaders. This is a platform for bold ideas, for leading questions, and for stories of resilience and grit. So, watch this space. Joining us live on the Hult Prize Podcast today is Gerald Obasi, a dynamic non-profit professional with over 5 years of experiences driving community-focused initiatives across Nigeria. With a background in grant writing, partnership development, and project management, Gerald's work spanned disability inclusion, women empowerment, healthcare, and education. Notably, Gerald spearheaded the first disability comic book in Africa. So in this conversation, we dive into his journey, his work, and what it takes to create inclusive solutions that truly move communities forward. I'm so happy to have you here on the Hult Prize Nigeria Podcast. My name is Samuel Olomu, and I'm Hult Prize Nigeria's public relation lead. So to kickstart things, I would like you to tell us how your day has been and where you are joining us.
Okay, good afternoon to you too. My name is Gerald. My day has been a bit hectic for starters, but I mean it's now much calmer. I'm joining from Lagos, Surulere, Lagos.
All right, thank you for that. I'm also joining you from Lagos today. We are going to start with your journey and motivation. So I would just like you to take us back to the very beginning, how it all started for you. And with everything I know about you, you work in the social impact space, and you're a non-profit professional with experiences in program management and fundraising. And I think these areas are particular areas for young innovators that are building from Nigeria, particularly under the Hult Prize umbrella. So yes, so just take us back to the very beginning, how it all started for you. Yes, you want to learn about your humble beginnings, sir.
Okay, said it's humble beginning. Well, okay. So my story really for me is I went to the University of Benin. I graduated from the Department of Chemistry, Pure and Applied Chemistry. I never had any intention to be in the social impact space for starters. I mean, I wanted to work in a lab. I'd done my IT while I studied chemistry in the laboratory, and I had a very wonderful experience. However, we graduated, from school, completed NYSC, and it was time to get a job. And for starters, it was really difficult getting any job with what I'd studied. So I got an opportunity basically at the end of the day to work in the social impact space. Now, when I got to the space, I mean, I was a bit marveled and I was very curious. So I would say that the first thing that really sparked my interest in the space was my curiosity. And I started out as an admin person. The job role I took to get into the social impact space, was an admin person. And one day, our programs person was out of the office. She needed to sort out some things, and she was going to be out of the office for 2 weeks. But we needed to, and it's a very small organization. The programs needed to continue running, and my boss asked me to step in. And that was it. I stepped into programs. I did it with so much fun, with so much excitement. And when the person resumed, my boss was like, "Oh, can you guys switch roles?" And yeah, and that's how it started for me, basically. I took on the role of programs. I didn't just, take it on. I owned it. So I think that I would say that that's one of the key things that people need to, realize in this space. When you're taking on a role, you need to own it. What owning the role does for you is that it gives you room to be innovative. You take responsibility for a number of things. You look at your entire end-to-end process to say, this is how I run this program currently. Looking at it end-to-end, how can I improve on this show? How can I make it better? What are the redundant things that I can take away? And that was it for me. I looked at the role, I took ownership of it. I tried to, be innovative about it, be more creative. How do I make my and the entire goal for me was when I started out was how do I make my work easier? So I didn't mind taking work home. I didn't mind working late, but I just needed to achieve a personal goal. And the personal goal was in the area of programs, how do I make my work better? I continue to take on the programs role, are running, and who is in a better position to speak about your programs than the programs manager? So the skills that I just needed to learn to make me better was to learn things that are related to fundraising, creating partnership proposal, learning how to talk through the proposal, writing grants and all. And when I did that, so it became a very broad skill for me. And I really enjoyed it. Yes, it can be very stressful, but and the scenario is imagine a partnership person that walks into a partnership meeting. Yes, the person is a good salesman, um, and you're having conversations with your partners, and the entire thing that you're selling is your programs. And your partners are asking specific questions, questions that, are way beyond the big scope of your programs, but the nitty-gritty, the things that are in between that a partnership person that did not plan that journey with you might not have answers to. So program, you understand the program like the back of your hands. You can easily answer those questions. So that's how I started out my role in the non-profit. It's been continuous learning. How do I grow? How do I become better? And basically, it's consuming resources, consuming case studies, taking courses. So I think one of the key problems that people make is you want to take courses. However, the first thing that is really coming to your mind is certification. You want a course that gives you a recognizable certification, and maybe you just want to grow out of the ordinary. But really, in a learning process, that was not my interest. My first interest was the knowledge. So I didn't mind if I got certification from the courses or not, or if the platform has a recognizable certification. All I wanted to do at that period was gather the knowledge. So I took courses from different platforms that would help me grow in the non-profit space. Some of them, I don't even remember if they had certification or not, but it was not my goal. My goal was take these courses, gain the knowledge, and build your career. So yeah, that's how my journey started basically.
All right. Thank you so much for that wonderful exposition. And if there's anything I could be able to glean from all you said is the fact that sometimes we don't even have to choose, right? The choice is not actually for us to make. It's just we are just a product of what we repeatedly do. We are who we are. We might sometimes might
Yeah.
decide to want to pick a choice. This is what I really want to do, and all of that. And what the future actually holds is actually always very different. So that being said, I would just like you to actually delve more into, let's talk more about Hult Prize Nigeria. And Hult Prize works with young people who are just starting to find their purpose in impact. That is, young people who are building in innovation. Some of them are building in social impact. Some of them are even building in different other sectors. So, from your journey, so what do you think these students often misunderstand about working in the non-profit and development space? Personally, for me, before I started my journey, most of the time I'm always like, I don't want to do SDG because there is no money in SDG. And in quotes, that's a misunderstanding. That is because I do not really understand how the system works. Right? Some people are doing SDG full time, 100%, and they are making it big. So, what do you think young people often misunderstand in non-profit, and how has the journey um, stand to actually correct that? Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, I think we all there's that notion everywhere that people in the social impact sector we don't make money. A number of people still think that I work in the space for free, and they just wonder how I'm able to finance my life and all. Yes, we still have that notion out there, but the truth is, it's not how it is. If you work in the social impact space, you get paid. If you work in the social impact space, yeah, you can make a lot of money. Um, However, you are not going to become a billionaire working in social impact space because let's remember that we call it a non-profit, a space where you can make good money to sustain your life, live a good life, basically, but you are not going to, become a millionaire. If you want to become a billionaire and have excess money, I would advise that, you go into the for-profit business. That's for starters. I would also like to, put it out there that the for-profit space, in whatever you're doing, don't put money first. Really, it's the impact for you first before any other thing. Um, and impact one, two, consistency, three, accountability. So you're making impact in the smallest way you can. Be consistent in making your impact. Resources that is given to you to make that impact. I'll tell you what that does for you. Basically, it will attract all kinds of persons to you, including strategic partnership, donor funding, and it comes from being impactful, being consistent, being accountable. Now, in all of those three things, yeah, one of the things that people that are already making impact, they're consistent about it and they are accountable. One of the reasons why most of them have not been seen, most of them have not been heard, because I know that there will be people like that you are making impact, you are consistent with your impact, you're very accountable, but no donor funding, no strategic partnership and all. And you're asking yourself, what's happening? The truth is, you are doing that, but you're missing one key element, and that's the ability to tell your story. Are you telling your story right? And for me, when I took a storytelling course, it brought a realization for me. Like I said, all through my journey, it's more about the learning, it's not about the certification. When I did this storytelling course, like it helped me understand storytelling from the easiest point of view is how do you move a needle from point A to point B? That when you do, you see a transformation in that movement. That is just what impact is for us. I would say I'll take an example. If you run a social enterprise where your role is basically to build the capacities of youth to ensure that they can run a successful business, they can become great entrepreneurs, just like what Hult Prize is doing. At the end of the day, if you want to measure the impact, is we took Mr. A when he finished NYSC or at this point of his life where this was what he was, and we took him to point B. How is this particular person now at point B? Is he making a successful living? Does he or she now have a job? That's your impact. That's the basic way to tell your story. Well, people don't see it that way. When you can tell that story that way consistently, people see what you are doing, and immediately you know it. Immediately you know it. Somebody has millions sitting somewhere, like, oh, you have done this for three persons. I want to help you scale. I want you to do this for 2,500 persons. The funding comes to you. Why? Because people have clearly seen your impact. People see that you're consistent about it. Consistency shows them that you are not more of the money, you're more of the impact. Accountability shows that whatever fund is given to you, you are accountable for it, and you direct everything into impact. So, if you can just put that together, really, it makes you successful in this space. And growing in this space, I'll crown it all with growing in this space, you need time. It's a process, it's a thing of process. You need time, you need patience, and you need to keep going.
All right. Thank you so much for that. You mentioned impact. And so on impact, I'm just going to say that you've worked in education, you've worked in healthcare, you've worked in disability inclusion and women empowerment. So how do you think that young people can approach designing programs in a way that gives them long-term impact, right? You mentioned that impact and consistency is what defines like your work, particularly in the social impact space. So how do you think young people can actually design the program in a way that delivers to them long-term sustainable impact?
Okay. So I would use, one of the things that I've experienced to also speak about impact, long-term impact, and basically sustainability. So when I worked in a disability-focused organization, and we were making impact, and what we basically do in terms of impact there is that we provide assistive devices to children. That was our key role. That's what we're doing. And one of the parents came to us one day and said, "Oh, thank you very much for what you do for my child. You're giving this child an assistive device. The child can still go to school. However, there's a challenge. And the challenge is my child is going to school, but it has not stopped the discrimination and the stigma that my child faces in school as a child with disability. What that does for us now is we question our impact and ask ourselves for a long period, if we continue giving children assistive devices, does it really solve their problem? No, it solves only a bit, a portion of their problem. There's still a lot of problem. And if we continue like that as an organization, any organizations that is able to solve their problems holistically will definitely push us out. So we are losing value as an organization. So that what that led to was us doing a research and speaking to our benefactors, our beneficiaries to understand some of the challenges that they are facing in a broader scope. And when we did that, basically, we got to realize that giving these children assistive devices is not the end to their problem. There are so many other problems ahead. And what that did for us was that it bettered new approaches. It made the organization have new branch of programs. The organization now started thinking about sustainability. Um, if we solve this particular problem for these children, if they grow to a certain age, what are the potential challenges that they need to face? And what that does for us was now that we now became a larger organization. We had more programs. Yes, it will give you more work, but however, what that does for you is that it helps you grow in the space. It helps your value remain intact so that as the world changes, you are also changing with it. So what that now did for us was that we now started doing other projects. One of the projects we now did then was to work with the Lagos State government to ensure that they include children with disability in their educational budget, to ensure that there's an environment for children with disability to go to school comfortably. After we did that, we also came up with our own advocacy material to promote inclusion in schools. After that, so a lot of projects was just bettered in line of that simple research. And that is what we call, it's just to ensure that there is sustainability. It's just to ensure that the organization can live, a longer period because times are changing. And as times are changing, as an organization, you need to adjust to how the things are changing and how they are all working. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much for that. And you mentioned measuring your impact. And if there's anything I could say about non-profit is that most of them they organize a lot of programs, they do a lot of programs, and at the end of the day, they are not making impacts. They are not making impacts like
Yeah.
necessary impacts. So yes, I would just like to ask you about, you mentioned storytelling while we started the call, that you took courses on storytelling and that for you, it is not about the certification. It is about what you're able to learn in the process. So one of the projects that you've actually worked on that stood out was the creation of the first Africa's disability comic book. So what do you believe, or let me say, why do you believe storytelling is such a powerful tool for social change? Because
Okay.
I'm sorry about this. Let me trace some little backstory. Personally, for me, I used to write, and I started writing as when I was 15 years old. That was some GS3 back around 2015. So there was this situation that happened in my local government. It went viral across the social media. So there was this particular school that was sitting down, students of that school were sitting down on bare floor to write their promotional examinations. And I took it upon myself alongside one of my brothers who was a lawyer at the time. So we wrote opinions to some news organization, and my brother granted a news media interview, and the story actually went viral all over the web. And the next day, the government took shares not only to that school but to the entire schools in the local government. So I believe storytelling is very, very important. It is like it's a powerful tool for social change. So that is my own story. So I want to listen to your own story on how or why do you feel storytelling is very important, or let me say, such a powerful tool for social change, particularly for young persons who are building at Hult Prize Nigeria.
Okay, so we tell stories every day in everything we do, and it's also the evidence to our work. When you do something and you don't talk about it, you don't tell the story, nobody knows about it. So it is very important for you to be able to tell a story. And telling stories are different. You need to be very intentional about telling your story. You need to understand the purpose why you are telling your story. Are you telling a story for just saying it to pass an information? Are you telling a story for me to take action? Are you telling a story for me to learn from it? So it's a lot. So if you look at what we are doing today, you are taking an interview from me, but everything that I've been talking about is I'm telling you a story about my journey. And what that does for me and for the participants is, for me, it helps people to see my journey. It helps position me for, I would say, more opportunities for you to understand the level of knowledge and skill that I have as a person. For the people that are going to view this, or the people that are viewing this, for them, it's more of, oh, I am going to learn from the process of this story. It also shows you that I've been in this space for years, almost a decade now, and there's a consistency in the work that I've done. I've gone into different parts of the social impact areas. That's what it is entirely. So that is me telling you a story. So when you are doing something in the space and you want to get funding, you want to get partnerships, you want to get collaboration, you must learn how to tell your story. So you must tell your story right. You must tell your story in the way it needs to be told for you to attract partners, for you to attract funders. If you don't tell your story, what it does is that it cripples your visibility as an organization. It limits your scope as an organization. It limits your reach as an organization. So if you don't tell your story, you are crippled. And there are different stories that you need to tell to funders, those that will benefit from your programs and all. If you tell your story right, let's just take let's put something in context. You're a non-profit and you practice only in Lagos. And one day you tell your story right. And after you told your story right, somebody sees your story, is amazed by the level of impact you are making in Lagos. Have people here in Zamfara State, and we need you to help them. Now, what that does for you is that in terms of a beneficiary, your scope has now gone beyond Lagos. You now have to move it to Zamfara because you have personal requests from them. Now, the moment you grant that request as an organization, your scope has expanded. And what that does, and where did this come from? It came from telling stories. You can also tell a story, still the same context. I like the fact that you have been doing this for so number of years. You've been consistent. I see the level of impact you are making, and that is because you are telling your story right. And the founder says, you know what? I know that there are similar people in so states in Nigeria that are having the same problem. I'm going to give you the fund and everything you need. I need you to go and replicate this project in these states. What has that done for you? It has not only brought in donor funding to you, it has also expanded your scope as an organization. So, but if you don't tell these stories, Scaling will be difficult. Growth as an organization will be difficult. There's no visibility for you. You run out of beneficiaries because, I mean, when you are just within a region and you have catered to all the beneficiaries available at a time period in that region, what happens next? You don't have beneficiaries to reach out to again. But when you tell your stories, beneficiaries from different part of your region, different part of your countries are getting donor funding, you're seeing partners that are interested. And really, you said something that was really key for me. And I think it's a mistake that people make. They do a lot of activities and don't measure impact. So before, when you design a project, ask yourself, how is this going to transform the life of a child? How is this going to transform the life of this woman? How is this going to transform the life of this youth? You might, I see a number of people say, oh, we are going for outreach, we are doing this, we are doing that. Yes, you go for outreach, you give a child book, you give a child school bag. But really, the question you should ask yourself is that, am I giving the right child? That's one question that it comes to my head. Are you giving the child that is smart enough to ensure that I need to read this book? That's for you, that if you are thinking and you're not thinking more of just activities, you are now giving or you are extending that service that you're doing as an organization to the right of beneficiaries, that you know that at the end of the day, to move from one point to the other. They will help you in crafting your story, in telling your story, and people are seeing the impact that you're making. You teach somebody how to, maybe a vocational skills of how to sew clothes or how to become an hairdresser. And after you have done that, you just forget them. You don't know if they learned it right, for starters. You didn't go back to confirm if they started a business with that skill. Even if they did start a business, you didn't go back to confirm how is the business running. Have they been able to manage it successfully? Do they need to scale at some point? So it's an entire journey. So when you taking entrepreneurship and vocational skills as an example, is an entire journey, and you need to be able to go through that journey, look at that entire scope, and ask yourself, what role can I play? Where do I and where can I stop? Is there any organization? That's why collaboration is key. Is there other organization that I can bring to complete it? That organization is beneficial. You can tell the story holistically, because when you give somebody a vocational skill, you don't stop there. You ensure that the skill you have given the person can use that skill. First of all, the person understands the skill, the person can process it and make use of it. After the person can make use of it, and when the person turn into a money-making skill, can the person run a business successfully? There's another skill that you now need to give the person to run a business. And now the business is growing, the person is being overwhelmed so that the person does not mismanage and mismanage the business. Grow. So there's a lot. It's one program, but there's a lot in it. If you don't identify those processes, or you just say, I will just want to give this person vocational skills. Yes, you are giving the person vocational skill. What impact have you made in the person's life? That's like a huge question for you that most people don't have answers to.
So, um, you mentioned impact. You mentioned whenever you are telling your story, you tell it with intentionality, you tell it with
Okay.
purpose. I mean, we cannot tell our story enough. Like even bigger organizations still tells their story in a way that still attract people. And if there's anything I could gain from everything you mentioned was that whenever we tell our stories, we get the attention of corporate organization, we get the attention of investors and funders to our organization or to any project that we might be leading. So that being said, Hult Prize Nigeria, our ecosystem at Hult Prize Nigeria, our ecosystem thrives on partnerships, particularly with universities, with corporate entities, and ecosystem players. So, what advice will you give on building partnerships that goes beyond branding and that leads to real social change?
Advice really is a number of people still are still stuck in the traditional mode of giving, the mindset of, oh, they should give us because they want to get they want to contribute to the SDG of value. What value do you have to give me? What value are you bringing to my organization? Why should I fund you? Now I know I'm giving you money to, make impact and all, but as I'm giving you this money, what value are you giving me in return? A number of people just think that, oh yes, I'll put your logo on my website as a partner, I'll put your logo here. Really, if those people wanted their logo and their mentions on social media, then they have the power to go and partner with bigger non-profits that have more visibility and all, so that they can get that visibility. You are a non-profit, you have just 1,000 followers, and you're telling me a corporate organization that have over 1 million followers on my Instagram page or social media page, and over a million plus view on my website, that the benefit of the partnership is that I'm going to put my logos on their website and all. Come on, it doesn't tally. So you need to ask yourself, as a social impact organization, if I want to partner with a corporate organization, what's the level of value that I'm giving to you? Now, when I'm designing programs, I design it with donors in mind, and I'm looking at my programs. I'm looking at the potential number of reach that it can cover, and I'm thinking, what are the best set of persons that I want to reach with this? Who are the best? Who are the people? Who are the donors that I can bring in on this? And it's based on intentionality, how you design your programs. In the design of the program, you give room to give partners value. If I want to design a program that will, cater to students in the university, one of the key persons or the key partners that I'll be looking at are maybe fintech, banks, FMCGs, and I have my reasons. For them, they can also integrate their marketing into it, basically, because they want their products, they want their services to reach out to more people. Am I giving them access as that nonprofit to reach out to more people? Yes. Am I going to give them that value and say, okay, what you need to do for me is, if your marketing budget is about 65 million or maybe 100 and something million, my know it's programs, and this program is going to reach about 1,000, 10,000 youth in so university, in so school. Can you give me this money? When they critically think about it, and they have a marketing budget of 100 million, and you are guaranteeing them a number of reach, you have created space in your own programs to accommodate your partners, to say, you come into this program with me, you have the capacity to do this through our programs, you have the capacity to do this through my programs. You're asking for a 30 million, that's about a 30% of their marketing budget. Will it get them a very reasonable reach? Yes. Do you think they will fund you? Yes. You know why? Because you are presenting value to them, and they are also getting value from it. They will fund you to ensure that happens. So for you to be able to, get partnership either with the government, either with universities, either with fellow non-profits, you need to ensure that as much as you want to make impact, you also need to create value. You need to ask yourself, as an organization, through these my partners, when they come in. Now, when I go for partnership meetings, we have conversations. And at the end of the day, I'm not just interested in how much you want to give me or how much I want. I ask you, what do you want to get from my project? Like, what exactly are your needs? What are your demands? What do you want to achieve with this collaboration? You tell me. And when I weigh the options and I see that it is not impacting my impact, the impact for me is my end goal. Is it impacting my impact? No, it's just a contributing factor to my project. Why not? I can reshape my program to accommodate you. But most people don't really think about it these days. And it's not all kind of partnership that you just go out and seek for money. Learn to seek for strategic collaborations. Let's do this together. Don't give me money. I just need you to come and take this part of this project for me. Get it done. That's why it's like I said from the beginning, if you want to be in this space, take more of impact, think less of the money. And when you are making impact and doing it consistently, the money will come.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So we have just few minutes to the end of the meeting, and this is going to be like the last question. So I'm going to ask him like a two-in-one question. So first, you are going to be serving as a judge at the Hult Prize
Okay.
National Competition that is happening this year. And then, so I wanted to tell us what to actually look forward to, and as well use the opportunity to advise some of the innovators that are participating in this year's national competition. Thank you.
Okay, so really, the key thing that I'm looking forward to, um, I want to see something different from the norm. And when I mean something different, I'm not looking for a super innovative design or anything. No, I'm looking for a process that challenge what is already existing and can make it better. Like one of my senior bosses will always say, she says, it's not rocket science. You can pick something that somebody has done before. The world is changing, like the world is changing rapidly with technology and all. And you look at what that person has done before. Do your research. Will this be stable for the next couple of years? If no, what can you improve on it so that when the world changes, it remains valuable? This is already happening. Is it making enough impact? Is it reaching the right persons? No. How can you improve on it to reach the right person? So there are a lot of things already available. There are a lot of projects, there are a lot of programs, there are a lot of solutions that are already existing out there. But the question really that I'm looking out for is, this solution exists? Is it solving the right problem? Can we make it better? I mean, there's already there are lots of things that are available. People have different models of training entrepreneurs and all. Look at these models. What are the working models? What are the things that you can improve on it? What is available? And if you bring a new innovation entirely that does not exist and can solve a problem in the space, that's super great. But I think that we have a lot of existing models that are already being that are running out of, that are running, I don't know the right word, but they are running dead already. Do we need to revitalize them? Does someone need to pick it and improve on it? Yes. If you can do that, for me, it's also a way of being innovative. So those are the really key things I'm looking out for. And to just crown it all, if your innovation is not just activities and it is making impact, I think for me, it is just going to stand out. And you can clearly state how what you are doing is going to transform life. If you say what you want to do is to ensure that, you want entrepreneurs to be able to secure better employment and you want to give them a training, please, by all means, let me see that training and let me see how it translates into impact. If you have the right model to prove it, to make it happen, yes, it's something that kind of solution needs to be in the market because Nigeria is currently suffering. Currently, I'm in the education space and we're dealing with children that are out of school. How can we ensure that more children are in school? That's the big question for me every day. How can we ensure that more children are in school? How can we ensure that the public education is impacting the right knowledge and people are able to pick it and run with it? How can we ensure that the government is becoming more accountable to ensure that education is good? A solution that people are already doing things, people are building infrastructures, people are gifting things to school. But is Nigeria still one of the countries with the highest out of school children? Yes. Do you know what that is telling us? That some of the solutions they were doing and we are not getting it 100%. So we need to improve on it. Because despite the entire solution, the number of non-profit focused on education in Nigeria, we still have a lot of challenges in it, which means that instead of working in silos, we need to be more collaborative, which means that we need more innovative solution to ensure that children are staying in school. Why are they not staying in school? We need to go back and do another baseline research to know why they are not staying in school. So for me, it doesn't necessarily have to be something new. It can be something that is already existing, but will you improve it to disrupt the market and make a great change? If that happens for me, I'll give you all the points you need to come out of the competition on top.
Right. Thank you so much for that. So you mentioned that what you are really looking for is the impact those solutions are going to actually have in
Yes.
the broader society at large. So I think that's a good one for me, and I think that is what Hult Prize is also looking forward to achieving with the Hult Prize competition. So, sir, it has been a good time with you, and I want to use this medium to appreciate you on behalf of the Hult Prize Nigeria team. Thank you for coming on board as a judge for the Hult Prize competition happening around April, May this year. We are looking forward to having you at the national competition, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to working with Hult Prize.
All right.